For the past 6 months, Israel has killed more than 35,000 people in Gaza, including thousands of women and children. But why is Israel carrying out such brutal actions in this small strip of Palestine? To understand this, we need to go back to the roots of Jewish belief. In the holy book of the Jews, the Torah, there is a story about prophet Jacob, also known as Israel. According to Jewish tradition, Jacob was once traveling through the land of Palestine. One night, he rested his head on a stone and fell asleep. In his dream, he saw a ladder rising from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending upon it. When Jacob awoke, he declared, "This land is truly the house of God. From here, one can reach the divine." For Jews, this made the land of Palestine sacred and central to their faith. That's why, even today, they see this territory as their promised land and are willing to go to any lengths to control it. Historically, this region was simply known as Palestine, but after the creation of the State of Israel, much of the land came under Israeli control. The remaining Palestinian population is now divided into two main areas, the West Bank and the tiny strip of Gaza. These two regions are geographically separated, with no land connection between them. As a result, their governments and politics differ greatly. While the West Bank is governed by the relatively secular PLO, Gaza is controlled by Hamas, a group seen as far more strict. The conflict between Palestinians and Israel has been ongoing for the past 75 years. For decades, the position of most Muslim countries was the same. They would never recognize Israel until Palestinians were given their rights. But things began to change during the presidency of Donald Trump. Under his leadership, the U.S. pushed Muslim nations to recognize Israel through the so-called Abraham Accords named after Prophet Abraham, respected by both Jews and Muslims. Slowly, countries like the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Oman recognized Israel, often in exchange for American aid or political favors. For example, Sudan received a $1.2 billion loan and was removed from the list of terror-exporting states after recognizing Israel. Morocco, too, gained U.S. Point Versado, recognition of its disputed territories. There was also mounting pressure on other Muslim-majority nations like Pakistan, Indonesia, and Bangladesh to follow suit. Even Saudi Arabia, the most influential Arab nation, seemed close to recognizing Israel, especially after Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman declared that Iran, not Israel, was the greater threat. Meanwhile, Israel continued expanding Jewish settlements deep into Palestinian land, something the United Nations repeatedly condemned as illegal. Yet, no international power was able to stop it. Many began to believe that the Palestinian cause was slowly being buried. But then, on October 7th, Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel, killing 130 people and capturing around 150 hostages. For Israel, a country small in size, this was a massive shock. The attack was condemned globally, with media calling it a terrorist assault that targeted civilians, including women and children. Hamas later admitted that mistakes were made during the operation. Israel's response was swift and brutal. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appeared on television and vowed to take revenge in a way the world had never seen before. Israel immediately cut off Gaza's electricity, water, and food supplies, then began a massive military campaign. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant even referred to Palestinians as animals and gave soldiers the green light to do as they wished. Backed fully by the United States and silently tolerated by Arab governments, Israel launched relentless airstrikes on Gaza. Hospitals, schools, and residential neighborhoods were destroyed. Soon after, Israeli ground troops entered Gaza. With one of the world's most powerful armies, advanced fighter jets, tanks, and even nuclear weapons, Israel unleashed destruction on an unprecedented scale. Even the intelligence agency Mossad, often considered one of the best in the world, failed to detect Hamas's October 7th plan. This led some to believe in conspiracy theories, that perhaps the attack was allowed to happen in order to justify a massive Israeli response. Inside Gaza, the main cities of Gaza City, Khan Yunis, and Rafah were cut off from each other by Israeli forces. Step by step, Israel carried out what many call a genocide, killing more than 35,000 Palestinians, with the death toll still rising daily. At the United Nations, multiple resolutions were proposed to condemn Israel's actions, but every time the U.S. vetoed them, Western countries, including much of Europe, stood behind Israel. Meanwhile, Arab and Muslim nations remained silent, despite their history of once waging wars against Israel. Ordinary Muslims around the world, however, rose up. Massive protests erupted across Europe, America, and Asia. According to reports, out of 900 global protests, only 14 supported Israel, while the rest were in favor of Palestine. Muslims also launched a boycott of Israeli-linked companies such as Coca-Cola, McDonald's, KFC, Pepsi, and Nestle. Initially, sales dropped in some regions, and share prices fell slightly. But over time, the impact faded, raising questions. Were Muslims truly united in their boycott? Or was their collective power overestimated? The only country that posed a real challenge to Israel was Iran. When Israel bombed the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Iran retaliated strongly. Some argue Israel deliberately provoked Iran, either to weaken it or to drag it into the conflict. Meanwhile, Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen, both backed by Iran, have kept constant pressure on Israel, targeting trade routes and ports. Israel relies heavily on three major ports for international trade. When Yemen disrupted shipping routes, Israeli trade traffic dropped by 85%, forcing ships to take long detours around Africa, causing heavy economic losses. In an interview, Netanyahu was asked what Israel's greatest threat is. His reply, Iran, Iran, Iran. While many Muslim nations are moving closer to Israel, Iran remains isolated but determined to resist. The question now is, as the world slowly normalizes ties with Israel, will Palestine survive? Or will this be the final chapter of its struggle?